What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of Insurance Isn't Boring. I'm your host, Elijah, joined as always by the wonderful Xander Wolle. Today, we have a very special episode. We've got a guest who resides down in Puerto Rico for tax purposes, and it's paradise. His name's Edward Pritchett. He's one of the biggest agency owners in our company. His team has done over $100 million in annual premium volume in the last 2 years, maybe 18 months. He's been with our company for a little over 15 years, and he's got an extensive background of entrepreneurship that we're going to dig into, pick his brain, get into his mindset, learn how this man thinks and how he moves so that we can bring some value to you guys. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an insurance agent, if you're looking at insurance, grab your notebook, grab your notepad, and I would just encourage you to be present and soak as much of this up as you can. Edward, welcome to the show, man. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I love when you sent me the title of the podcast. I was like, I like that. That's good. Like we need more people to understand. Like it's really not that bad. Like insurance is actually a really cool thing. The things that you can do with the products and the way that they're structured and what they've done. I mean, you could talk about insurance in the sense of like the cities of Boston and Philadelphia. If you ask them, hey, do you guys like insurance? And like, not talking just like the average person involved. I'm saying like if the cities themselves could speak, they'd be like, yeah, Ben Franklin set up an insurance policy that is still paying us today, over 200 years later. We do really like insurance, like those kind of things. They think differently, I think, about insurance. We having something like this, what you guys are doing, getting this information out to the hands of folks. This is absolutely incredible. So happy to hear.
Thank you so much, man. We've got a couple questions we want to dig into, and Xander and I we'll ping pong it back and forth. And Edward, feel free you can go down any rabbit trail you like. We really we keep it pretty conversational. It's a fairly casual podcast. But I think for the people who don't know you, if you've been in insurance for, I would say, more than a week, and you've looked at social media or YouTube, you've seen Edward somewhere. He's done a lot of work with Cody Askins. He's done a lot of work with Symmetry Financial Group and just on his own. But for the people out there who don't know you, how did you find insurance? You're somebody with a really unique background. You graduated from Yale, of all places, with a degree in chemical engineering. So you're very smart. And
Thank you. Well, let's put it that.
I want to hear, like, how did you find this company? How did you get your start into insurance? Way back when, I think it was in 2010. I think you got into insurance. Is that right?
Actually, it was before that, 2008.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you both, Xander, Elijah. Just again, excited to be on a podcast that's doing what you guys are doing, and I hope anybody who's listening, like, we share this information. People like these two gentlemen, we share this information because there is so much good in this industry, and it's a lot, and it takes a lifetime of a career. One of my good buddies in the insurance industry, Joe Jordan, me and him have back and forth for years, and it's like there's a purpose behind being an insurance agent, right? It's a meaningful profession. Like this isn't just and not that any profession is just like any old thing, but like what we provide for the people that we serve is it's life changing. It's why I shared that little bit about Philadelphia and Boston. I mean, Ben Franklin set up 2 annuities for those 2 cities and said, you can't touch it for 100 years. And then when they were able to touch it, I mean, there were millions of dollars that went to fund charitable projects all across those 2 cities that still are funded today. This is 2025, right? Ben Franklin ain't been around for a few years, right? And that's what insurance does. But people don't think about it because most of us don't think about life in the hundreds of years. We think about like I would like to say we think about the 40 or 50 years that we're getting ready for, but most people really just think about like the next week, the next month. And so insurance really helps us to expand our vision all around.
Mm.
I got into the industry, I was an engineer coming out of college, graduated from college in 2005. So right before this great period of time in our nation called the Great Recession. And so end of 2007, started 2008, the job that I had just basically just vanished. It wasn't like I was fired, like it just slowly, there was like less and less to do because there was nothing happening in the economy. And then it's just like, you don't really have to show up tomorrow if you don't want to. I mean, we're not going to pay you. So like, I mean, if you want to show up, you can. I think they're not going to lock the building yet, but, so I was just, recently out of college, Great Recession hits. I'm a chemical engineer. What can I do? And there weren't a whole bunch of people hiring chemical engineers in, early 2008. And someone suggested, hey, I know a guy who's starting an insurance agency, or expanding an insurance agency that was down in Knoxville. And he's coming over here to Asheville. You should give it a look. I applied online, went in, did my interview at a hotel.
Probably very different from the first job you got out of college.
Very different than the first job I had. But I wasn't judgy at that point in time. Like I said, like this is late 2008. We're deep in the Great Recession. I got to make some income, right? And it was a captive insurance agency. Started working for them, and I joke about the whole, it was at a hotel, but like the way I signed up to be an insurance agent, Xander, is like I'm sitting down at this desk at the end of this presentation that they do. There's a couple of people that I don't know, and they're signing me up for license coach, and they're having me give my social security number. Like we're at the back of a hotel conference room, and they're like, "So what's your social security number?"
Oh,
Hesitation. Like, wait. I'm supposed to just give that to you right now? But it was my first lesson in sales, right? Because they were selling me right there. And I get, not just me, but like there were probably 60 people in this room. Just about everybody gave them the social security, like they gave them all this information. We all got to license coach. I passed, it was a company where they were like, make a list of your 100 closest friends and family.
Yep.
And
We've
I
heard
did.
of those.
And my manager rode with me to go sell my family and friends. He took a split. It was an app split. He got 60, I got 40. Right. And my starting commission there was 35%. So do the math on that. So that's what had me started. And I spent 2 years working there and learned a lot about Section 125, employee benefits. But I really like to I try to be a sponge in any environment that I'm in. And I was just trying to soak up, like, what is this insurance business? Like I was doing it, yes, to make an income. Thought I could help this guy build this office in Asheville, North Carolina. But then I started to understand more and more about insurance. And towards the latter part of 2010, I was like, all right, I can't keep working for this company because this is not solid insurance. Like there's so much more that could be done. I'm captive. I can only sell their product. So I started looking around. I put my resume back out. I was either going to go back into engineering or find another way to do this insurance thing. And that's when I got a call from one of my mentors, recruiters. His name is Casey Watkins. His recruiter called me, set me up with an interview with him. And he kind of explained insurance a different way. He explained like the benefit, like what his company was wanting to do to share the wealth of opportunity in the insurance industry, not just from the agent side, but also for the clients that we serve. And since then that was 2010, October 2010. And it's been, will soon be 15 years of working with him, the company that he helped found, and really growing my capabilities, not only as an insurance agent, but on the business side, like learning about entrepreneurship, being able to apply the principles of business, not only to the insurance industry, but to other businesses. I'm in real estate these days, registered investment advisory firm, doing things in the energy market. Like we get to, it's cool what you get to do because the principles of success are universal, right? Like it doesn't matter what sales, like we talk about this, is like, we could talk about some sales principles, and it's great for insurance agents, but it's also great for solar and real estate and, car sales, you name it. The principles apply to all of those. So that's
Mm.
a long-winded story. I shared that just because like it may seem, whatever circumstance you watching this, listening to this, whatever circumstance you're in, it may be like, man, I'm in just a dire situation. Like I don't know how I can get out of this hole that I'm in. I've been there,
Mm.
in 2007, before I started working in the insurance industry, I had not one, but two cars repossessed in the same year.
Wow.
And it's like, because I was an engineer making a good income, and then I wasn't making income, and I was 26. I didn't save up a whole bunch of money for a rainy day fund, right? Like I wasn't,
Yeah.
that wasn't taught to me at that time. I just didn't do that at that time. So it's like, was in this hole, but man, it took a few years, but this industry really, just, it breathed life into me, in the sense of like giving me a purpose, giving me a passion. And because I was able to work with that, then that started to manifest itself in more income, more time, more the things that I wanted to have, started to come back. But I had to add the value first. I had to do the training and get the knowledge and go through some of the rough stuff in order to
Yeah.
get to that point. So just as a word of encouragement to anybody, whatever type of sales you may be in, and specifically for those of you who are in the insurance industry, this is a great industry. And if you approach it from that standpoint of, how can I add as much value to the clients that I'm going to serve, you're going to start to see that come back in spades.
And just my background is in engineering as well. And so one of the things that was difficult for me to wrap my head around when I first started was, the sales seemed very logical to me, right? We do a lot of mortgage protection at Symmetry. And it's like, okay, you just told me that without your income, Miss Sally isn't going to have a roof over her head. And we're looking at the numbers to support that. Like, of course, this person is going to want to get this. And then they're like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And then I had to reframe, like, it's such an emotional sale. I'm curious if you had to go through that as well with your engineering background, or if you just came right in and you're like, yeah, this is an emotional thing. I know how to do it.
Yeah, now that was probably my biggest learning curve, because from the logical standpoint, it's math. Like, this makes sense.
Yeah. Why would you not do it?
Anytime I have conversations with people and I find myself, getting a little bit angry that they don't understand the math, I always nowadays I try to slow down and say, hang on a second. What's the emotional component that I'm missing here, so I can help them connect it to? Because that's what, everybody's a little bit different, right? Like there's some of us who, like, the analytics, the logic really makes sense. But even whenever I'm talking to other engineers or computer programmers that are clients of mine, yes, the logic, like, it makes sense. They still, even we, there has to make them take action. You have to get that little bit of emotion in there, right? You talk to anybody who is very left-brained like that, they can know all the math and still do the wrong thing for years until you get that little tie-in of that emotional piece. So yeah, that's something that we all have to just keep in mind, is that this is the only thing that moves someone to action is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tony Robbins talks about that all the time. And it's like, if I can't have that feeling word as to why we're getting ready to do something in any kind of sales, if there's not a feel word that comes out, right? And I'm not trying to promote any one way of sales, because there's, AIDA, feel, felt, found, spin, anything, like there's so many, right? And they all work to a certain degree, right? Like, what makes it work is you got to find what's your way of really being able to communicate on an emotional level, and back it up with that sound reasoning for them to be able to take care of whatever the problem is that they have. Right. Like, at the end of the day, that's all sales is we connect, and we all connect around emotion. Right. So if I get you, I feel like I'm just so frustrated with this situation. Frustrated how? People will respond to that. Like, they'll tell you how frustrated, whatever you cut. And you just keep talking about that. And then there comes a point where they're like, they're going to let you know, because we do this in every other conversation that we have, right? When you're talking to your best friend, your cousin, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, we do this all the time. Naturally, we pull out the emotional reason, like what's going on for somebody. And then there comes a point where they're saying, I need a solution to the problem. I would like the solution to look like this, right?
And it
And
doesn't
then
even feel like a sale.
it isn't. Well, it is and it isn't. What I would say is that everything that we do in life is sales, right? You convince your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friend, your cousin. You convince them to do something that you want to do. You just made a sale.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
You might not be compensated in dollars and cents. Compensated in, well, I got to eat out at Arby's instead of Wendy's because I hate Wendy's, right? But I sold them on Arby's, you know? And we all do, it's the same process. Is we key in on an emotion, and we pull that out. We find out what's the problem, like what's causing this emotional distress. And then we listen for what do they want the solution to be. And if we can provide the solution or spin the situation, and that's where the whole spin selling, if you look down that path before, spin the situation so that they see the situation now as, if they do what I'm asking them to do, it's going to take care of the problem. It's going to relieve that emotion. They're going to be happier.
Sales is just solving problems for people, helping them see it and then have the emotion to make a decision and act on it. That's the hard part.
I would say it's not solving problems. It's helping people solve their problems. That's when you actually make a sale. Because if I solve your problem, I haven't sold you on anything. Because as soon as I disappear, the problem's going to reappear. And if it was something you can return, you're going to let it go, right?
That's good.
But if I help you solve the problem that you have with the solution that you want, all I'm doing, this is the whole, like, be someone's Yoda, right? I'm just the guide to point them in the right direction, to help them, and then they get there, and now they're excited, not because of something I did. They're excited because they made a smart decision. They figured it out. They got the solution in place, and now they're going to be able to keep running with it. And I can leave that situation, and I'm golden. I don't have to worry about them. Well, I don't want to do this anymore. Let me send it back, right? Because we know what that in the insurance industry, like
chargeback
central, yeah.
Send it back. I don't get paid for anything that I did, right? That's you're actually earning negative dollars, right? Because you still put the same amount of time in. They send it back, and you didn't get paid. So it's actually a loss. It's not just a chargeback. It's a negative impact to your income.
Plus your time lost too.
That's that negative bit. Like, that time has a value. So anytime that happens, like, I've actually lost money by doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I got a question for you, Edward. So you had some experience being captive. You said for about 2 years. You interviewed with Casey. We're going to have to get Xander. We're going to have to get Casey on here at some point. But when you interviewed with Casey, this is a two-part question. Is it true you responded to a Craigslist ad? I heard that from somebody. I don't know if it's accurate. Is that how you found out about Symmetry, or was it a different avenue?
So it was actually Career Builder.
Career Builder. Very cool.
Yeah, so
very cool.
My resume was on Career Builder, and I got a call from his recruiter to my Career Builder resume.
That's amazing. What was it about Symmetry that really stood out to you that made you want to really plant your flag here? Because I know being independent is drastically different than being captive, and I think Symmetry is the best IMO out there. That's why I'm here. But what was it about this company, this opportunity, that made you want to make us change?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't the company, it was the person. I think that's usually what it is. Like, people don't leave a company, they leave leadership.
Yeah.
I know people I don't want to say, there's so many IMOs, I don't know how many there are, but like, I know people in tens of IMOs, right?
Wow.
20, 25 different IMOs. I know successful individuals in every single one of them. Every single one of them, people are finding success, right? I do love what I get to do with the IMO that I've been partnered with for 15 years. I don't feel like I would ever need to or want to go anywhere else, right? But I also know that the IMO that I'm with doesn't have the best of everything. I know, am I sounding to people like, oh gosh, I can't. Should I see it? But what I do know, because of the person, like I interviewed with Casey Watkins. Casey introduced me to Brandon Ellison. They both introduced me to Brian Pope. Through Brandon, I got a chance to meet Meredith and know the people that lead the company. There is nothing out there that's perfect. There's no perfect compensation model. There's no perfect tech system. There's no perfect dollar. It doesn't exist. There's no perfect lead. Let's go ahead and put that one out there too, right? But I do know people who are committed to continuing to work and continue to iterate and to continue to make something better so that it can help me. And that's what I found in Casey whenever I met with him and talked to him. Because here's the thing, the symmetry that I signed up for in 2010 is different than the symmetry for 2025, right? Like we have different contracts, we have different compensation, we have different carriers, we have different products. Everything is different from but
We're virtual.
We're virtual instead of, 100% door to door or 100% kneecap to kneecap. But what hasn't changed is the people that I follow, the leaders that I follow, and their heart for the people that are part of their company.
That's so good.
And what they want for the people that are part of their company. That hasn't changed. And it doesn't take that like say you can, put up the smoke and mirrors for 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, right? And make it look like that you're doing all that. But eventually, if you're with any outfit long enough, you're going to start to find out the truth. You're going to start to be able to look behind the curtain and say, okay, it's this or it's that, right? And I've had the opportunity to be in the room where it happens, to be able to look behind the curtain, to just see it tested again and again and again. And it just continues to be reaffirmed, the heart and the mindset of the people who are leading the IMO that I'm a part of, right? So that's where just like, I don't encourage people necessarily to just kind of be bouncing around, because I think, finding a place to call home and to make it happen, there's something that makes you stronger by doing that, right? What I want for anybody in this industry is to, wherever you are, deepen your knowledge, deepen your understanding, get better at serving our clients, because that's going to raise the bar for everybody in insurance. Like if we all work to do that, then more people are going to trust insurance agents. More people aren't going to hear about infinite banking concept and be like, well, what is that? That's great. That doesn't exist, right? Like if more people actually learn and know and teach it properly and show it properly, and then people hear it here, they hear it there, they hear it somewhere else, and like, there's enough people talking about this in this way. There must be some truth to this. Let me take a look a little bit deeper, right? And that helps all of us in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
If we're all doing that. But if it's always, I'm bouncing around, I'm, moving clients from this place and just going to take my clients and I need to switch all your policies over here. And then I can, chargebacks happen over there. I'm leaving death and destruction in my wake. And then I come over here and rewrite all the, like those clients are like, why am I rewriting my policy every 2 or 3 years? What's going on? Right. And like, are you actually benefiting them by doing that? And we all know the answer to that. No, you're not. And so it's like, that doesn't have to be the way. Unfortunately, that has been the way for a very long time in our industry, and especially in the independent side. But when you look at the captive world, right, the captive world is so much larger than the independent side. Right? I think the Treasury Department puts out a report on the insurance industry every single year. 2020 was the first year that premiums on the life and annuity side, going from U.S. consumers to insurance carriers, surpassed $1 trillion in premium for the year, right? And it's only gone up since then. But then when you look at where that premium comes from, almost 70% of that premium comes from captive organizations. The big guys, the Mass Mutuals, the Prudentials, the people who have been around, their companies have been around for 140 years, right? They have some very strict ways that they go about moving around, that they go about getting their clients, how they talk, teach, educate. And then you look at the independent side, and to a certain degree, it's a little bit like the Wild Wild West still, And we will continue to just be the wild, wild west until we can start understanding what the larger captive organizations have understood for a while, and organize the way we think and work our business practices to where we're putting the longevity of the client, right? The longevity of the client relationship, right? Like when you talk to someone who has a Mass Mutual policy or Prudential or, any of the other like big five, and you ask them, well, Elijah, why do you have that policy? Well, we're a Prudential family. My dad had a Prudential policy. My grandfather had a Prudential. Like anytime that I've talked to someone who that's what they have as their like, well, why do you have those? It's because there's legacy there. They've
Right.
all had it. It's paid out to the family, and try to flip one of those.
Good luck with that.
Very, very difficult to
Yeah.
get them to say, nah, yeah, I want to come and work. Like, who's that company again? Mutual of Omaha? I don't even know them, right? They do, but like they're not leaving what their whole family has known.
Right.
We have an opportunity, right? Because only 40% of Americans have the basic level of life insurance coverage, right? So there's at least 60% of Americans that if independent agencies were smart and thought about it that way, what's the long-term benefit that I can have? How can I make it so that our company is who their family always comes to for life insurance? It's not going to change things for you today, but in 10 years, things are going to be different. In 20 years, it's going to be a lot different. 50 years from now, if you keep doing it that way, you're going to look like these captive insurance agents look like today.
Yeah.
But people are thinking way too short term. They're like, how can I make some commission next week? Okay,
Yeah.
you can make it next week, but you probably won't be making it in 2 years.
So how much did your agency do last year, Edward?
Last year, we finished up with $48.9 million in premium.
Sheesh. And how many writers is that? Do you know?
Total writers, actually, I still have the Excel spreadsheet up. Total writers.
That's insane. 48.5 million.
In one year.
You
That's not cumulative. That's 1 year. To anyone listening.
So I'll say this when I tell you this initial writing number. Okay. Last year, and this is more about the industry than anything else. Last year in our agency, we had, let me get to this number right here. Last year, we had 1,336 agents that wrote 3 policies or less. I'm not proud of that number. But like that is, again, the nature of the business.
Yeah.
I guarantee you go to some captive organizations, it's going to be a lot more than that. Now, if I look at where did 80%, and this is what I think about. This is Pareto's principle. When I think about that $48 million in production, I think of where did 80% of that volume come from? Okay. And so of that, 80% of that volume for $48 million came from, and scroll back down, came from a total of 479 people.
It's that 80-20 rule, man.
Yeah, 80-20. Yeah, I was going to say. I was
Right.
waiting for the number.
So it's, and when I say 3 episodes, like in total, for last year, we had who submitted anything, even just one application. We had 2,443 agents submit at least one piece of business last year. But of that 2,400, and like you do the numbers, 479 divided by 2,443, that's
You're on the money.
19.6%.
Literally,
You said
28. Yeah.
Hey, you can't make this stuff up. That
Yeah.
rule exists for a reason. You do that on any size organization, big, small, otherwise. Like the larger the numbers, the closer you'll be. you can skew those numbers by looking at a very small data set, but the larger and larger the data set is, the more the Pareto principle will fall into play every single time. 80% of everything you do, 80% of your income, 80% of your volume, 80% of your fill in the blank comes from 20% of the people that produce or the things that produce what you're measuring, right? I mean, I would imagine someone can go do the research, but I would imagine 80% of the agricultural production of any country or even of the world probably comes from 20% of the land that is used for agriculture.
Yeah.
I would put
I'm
money.
sure.
It's actually the truth. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like those are numbers that we know exist. And so, like for me, I have to think about, okay, so what do I need to do knowing that number, right? If you're wanting to build a large organization, and I'm proud that we did 48 million. Our net placed percentage, like our submit percentage actually went down year over year. Our net placed percentage went up. So income wise, we actually made more income submit less than we did submit more, which I'm happy about. I'm not happy that we went down. Okay, there's some things we got to work on, but how do we work on that? If I know that 80% of my volume is going to come from 20%, so number one, I have to increase my numbers so that that 20% number gets to be a larger number.
Right.
And then where I focus my time and energy and development is on the 20%. And that
makes sense.
It sounds so cruel. It sounds so cruel. And you don't want to do that. Like you got that new person who's just like, man, if they could just break through, they're going to get it and it's going to change their whole life.
Yeah.
But like, that's not for me to determine. What I have learned is I've never put somebody in the 20%. The people in the 20% chose to be there. And so I have to let people identify whether they're going to be in the 20% or not. And that's who I have to give as much of the time and attention to, right? If they're responsible for 80% of the production, then that 20% should get 80% of my time. The remaining 80% should get 20% of my time because that's 20% of the production. Like is that not equitable? People are like, well, that's not fair. I'm not talking about fair. I'm talking about that's equitable. You get the value that you give. If you're producing 80% of the volume, you should get 80% of the time and resources. That's equity.
Yep. Makes
right?
sense to me. And that kind of leads into something that we really wanted to pick your brain on, right? Because there's a lot of new agents listening to this. And when you're brand new, right, someone throws you an objection on an aged lead. Maybe they throw you one on a new lead. Maybe you get a chargeback, decline. Fairly small problems in the grand scheme of things. And I would imagine that as you get to a point kind of to where you are, the problems look a lot different. And so I'm curious, what kind of issues does a $50 million a year agency owner have to deal with?
What do we have to look forward to, Edward?
Yeah.
You deal with the exact same problems as a brand new producer does, just scaling up 200, 300, or 400 times. Because that's the only difference. It's like if you're a brand new producer and you're buying leads, you're trying to write business, you're running into some objections every now and again. You're writing some business, some is falling on books, some is getting issued. And so singularly, those are problems that you're trying to deal with. When you're running a large scale agency, you're trying to deal with that problem, but you're trying to deal with that problem 200 times a month, 300 times a month, 400 times a month, every single day of that month with all of those people, because all those people feel like you should be helping them out with that. So that's where you have to have staff to help give them the knowledge and the information and the, like what are the weekly updates that we need to know? What's the training that we need to do? I'm having, people who raise their hand, I'm having this problem. Can you help me with that problem? Right. And so it's the same, like there's nothing as far as producing insurance, there's nothing different whether you have 500 agents or you have 2 agents, right? It's now you have scale, and how do you still make sure everybody gets the information that they know? So I always have to think back to like when it was just me as a solo producer, what did I do in order to make it work? What did I do to solve this problem, solve that problem? And then now, how can I disseminate that information out to people and see who actually goes out and follows? Like, I'm trying to blaze a path and make a path. And then the way we make the path into, a trail, and a trail into a street, and a street into a road into a highway, is we just have to keep coming down, and more people travel on it. We put more and more infrastructure around it. It doesn't make it simpler. Like, I think that's a problem that I have struggled with. Like, I'm always trying to make it simpler and easier for the person after me. There is no such thing as simpler and easier. There's just understanding the problems that you're going to face a little bit better before you have to face them. Because someone who has never been on the phones and is not good at sales, they're going to face like, there's nothing that makes it easier to go from that person to someone who's good at sales. They still have to go through every step of the way. They still have to learn how they talk, to stop saying all the time, to stop, crazily laughing at awkward moments and making the person on the other end of the phone. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever heard that, right? But like, you get some brand new people who are trying it down for the first time, like, "Hi, Mr. Smith, this is Bob. I'm just," like, nervous laughter just coming out from it happens, right? Like, you never know where someone is on their journey to being better at that, right? But for that person, I can't make it easier. They're still going to have to walk the path. They're still going to, if it's a 1,000-mile journey, they're still going to have to go every step of that, right? Hopefully now it's on a smoother path. There's not as many bumps or rocks, or, there's not a ledge right there that you could just keep walking and fall all the way off, right? Like, we've at least been able to shore that up, but they're still going to have to do the walk. And that's, being able to understand that so that you can prepare, again, whether it's you and one other person or you and 500 people, you want to be in that place where you can help prepare them that this is what you're going to be facing. These are the challenges. These are the expectations. We're here to help you go through that, but you have to be the one to go through it.
Yeah.
You have to want to say, I'm going to be in the 20%. I'm going to be one of the people that is responsible for 80% of that production. I'm here to do whatever it is that I have to take. Right. And that's why I know it seems like a cop-out answer, but there is no, it's different only in the scale.
Right.
That you have to do. Like, I have to track my numbers. Just like
You
I
do.
track numbers as
You
a
broke
person.
out the spreadsheet.
I have to have my spread. I have on this spreadsheet, it's year-over-year comparison. It's 2023 to 2024. I have it broken down by agent. I know which agents did what. Again, who do I need to be spending time with? There's a list for that. And there's a list for people who, like, they just need to have support and hope that they make a decision this year to become part of the 20%. And there's some people in that group that they're going to get mad at me saying that. They're going to get upset. How dare you? You should train me better. You should train me more. And I'm going to firmly say, no, I shouldn't. If you want to be in the top 20%, 10%, 5%, 1%, there is no, like, here's your pass. You deserve to be here. In whatever we do, sales, business, the stock market. If I want to be the best at selling stuff online like Jeff Bezos, I got to go and compete with him. Like, there is no, like, here's your invitation. You can just walk on in. And that's what everyone in this industry, if you're in sales of any kind, whether you have a base or base plus commission, whatever, it doesn't matter, or commission only, you're in business for yourself. And as a business owner, you have to make that firm commitment and decision that I'm going to make this work. Come hell or high water, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to look for good guidance. I'm going to follow. I'm going to listen. I'm going to go and do the work. I'm going to do the activity. Like, it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
It's supposed
If it was easy, we'd all be making $10 an hour.
Exactly. And I don't even know if it was that easy. I don't know that I don't know that we wouldn't even exist as a job. There's a company out there, Ethos, trying to just sell life insurance online, right? Like, you don't need an agent, just click a button and you can get life insurance. Check to see how they're doing right now. Just go check. I'm not going to tell you, your people, they can go check and see how they're doing right now. And you'll see it's not that easy. People aren't just out there clicking, oh, let me go get some life insurance today. That's not how it works.
Right.
I want to ask you something, Edward, because you're incredibly busy, unbelievably accomplished. You've done more in the last year than many people will do in a lifetime. You're married, you got kids, you travel to speak, You give of your time freely. You somehow found time to write a book this past year, Tax-Free Living. And this is something that, having read it in an afternoon, I would recommend this to anybody who's self-employed, big time, business owner, entrepreneur. What inspired you to write it? What's like something you want to impart? Don't give too much away because we want people to buy the book and read it. It's not, you could read this in an hour or 2 hours, but what do you want people to glean from this book and most importantly, apply? Because it talks about 4 key strategies to maximize wealth, preserve wealth, minimize taxes.
I was trying to think of how to answer that question. Kind of looking around. I was looking back at my bookcase, and there's probably 4 or 5 books on my bookshelf behind me about how to use tax-free income instruments such as Roth IRAs, municipal bonds, cash value life insurance, LLC setups and structures, wills, trusts, how they can be incorporated. I think I'm up to now like about 26 different trust types that I've looked at, analyzed, and explored. There's a lot more. There are so many different types of trust out there. If someone tells you that they're a trust expert, they're lying. Jurisdictional arbitrage, right?
Yeah, that's the big one.
It's a fun word to say. I just like saying it sometimes.
Yep.
But like even the simplest form of like, whenever I first started my LLC, it was when I learned about jurisdictional arbitrage back in 2013. I had started my business in 2010, but I wasn't incorporated until 2013. And I got incorporated because my accountant came to me at the end of, or, around April of 2013, or actually before then, we incorporated in April. So January, February, it was like, as we're preparing your taxes, I just want to let you know that you have a self-employment tax due to North Carolina for about $14,000. So I just want to make sure that you are aware and prepared for that. And I was like, no, I'm not aware and prepared for that. Like, income tax, what do I owe North Carolina? Well, because you're self-employed, yes, you have there's a 4% tax on income in North Carolina, but on top of that, there's a self-employment tax because I wasn't W-2ing myself and paying them, their legal larceny fee every single month with my paycheck, right? So that's when I first was like, okay, I need to figure out what can I do to solve that, and figured out about LLC structure, got things set up, and it's been different since then. And so I have all these books back here that are about those topics, and a lot of them are very dense. They're great for us, Xander. They're great for us analytics. Like I'm sitting there, there's charts, there's graphs, there's numbers, you got cross graph tables. Like it's fun, right? The majority of people look at that and just like, yeah, now I'm going to wait a couple years before I pick back.
Yep.
Right. Like they start the first 5 pages. And I mean, I could mention some authors, but there's some great authors in this space. People that I've done their courses, done their study, and it's fantastic information. But most people within 5 to 10 pages, they're done. They've checked out. And so I said, look, I strongly believe in the power of cash value life insurance. I've used it myself. Like when we put the down payment on our house in Puerto Rico when we built it, that down payment came from a cash value life insurance policy that I started in 2013, right? We've since paid that back, and now that money is being used to finance and work in things to buy multifamily properties to find like it's our bank, right? We actually at the beginning of this year, I pulled out from it to pay off the last hard note that we had, right? Now it's gone, right? And it's paid off, and it's actually been paid back into the life insurance policy. So like we own all this stuff free and clear now, and it's because of infinite banking. It's because of IUL policy and a participating whole life policy. And so as I was kind of looking through all that and the things I've done to help clients out with those kind of policies over the years, I want to come up with a better way to get this information in the hands of anybody where they could read it and understand it and not understand the whole thing, right? It's not a prescriptive book, but it gives you an understanding of the concept so you can then take the next step. Like that's all you're trying to do as a guide, is help someone take the next step, right?
Mm.
And I was thinking about Patrick Lencioni wrote a book, um,
Yeah, I've got
and
it on my
I'm
bookshelf.
just as soon as The Advantage, that's what it is. He wrote a book called The Advantage, and it tells a great story in that allegorical way, right? There's a principle and a plan that he lays out in it, but it's done in a story format. And I was like, I want to do that for infinite banking.
Mm.
And so I took me and Rebecca, my wife, I took our story and basically wove it into, like, that's how we found out about jurisdictional arbitrage here in Puerto Rico. Is we were on a trip to Dorado, Puerto Rico, it's paid for by an insurance carrier, and we ran into somebody at the gym that told us about the tax incentives for PR, right? And that also coalesced with what I already knew about cash value life insurance and jurisdictional arbitrage in the U.S. Like, you don't have to move to Puerto Rico to practice jurisdictional tax arbitrage, right? You can do that in the United States. If you live in California, one of my mentors, Brian Pope, lived in California. California decides to go crazy. He's like, you know what? Nevada's really cool. I
Mm-hmm.
really like Tahoe. It's 40 minutes from where I'm living now. How about I just move over there? By just moving over there, I'm not even going to fathom or guess at how much in taxes he saved by doing that. But let's just say it was a little bit, right? Like, even that, like, he didn't have to move to Puerto Rico. Just going from California to Nevada could save you hundreds of thousands or millions, depending on where you are and what you're earning, right? And so that's the idea with this book, is just to present it in a way that someone reading it, one, you can sit down and just, like you said, and I'm glad you're able to read it in the afternoon. That was my goal, was that you pick it up and it's not something you have to just keep coming back to for the next like 2 weeks. You can knock it out in a good solid hour and a half, 2 hours. And when you're done, you can say, okay, I get it. I get what I can do, and where would I like to start? And
Right.
anybody who reads the book can then, especially, and for you as an agent, hand the book. Like, some of the easiest sales that I've made recently have been because someone had the book, they read it, and then they said, I want to talk to you about how I could get started. And it's not a sale at that point. We already know what the problem is. We know what
Yeah.
they pick which solution, because there's, in the book, there's 4 pillars, but there's 9 different solutions to this problem in the book, right?
Right.
And so this gives them an idea of, like, they know they don't want to start with all 9, but they're going to pick one. And usually they pick the simplest and the easiest one to get started. And most of the time that's either starting their Roth IRA or cash value life insurance. And then once that's, then they can go to the next step. Then they can go to and so on and so forth. So that was the impetus. The book is for clients. The book is for agents who don't fully understand the concept and how you as an insurance agent can use this to help you help more clients and thereby sell more policies. And I'm just going to continue to push and grow this aspect, because I just, it's done so much for me already that I want it to add value to others. And I know same thing, principle for why I spend 80% of my time with the top 20% is where I add value will come back.
Yep.
So
That's good.
that's the reason for the book. I'm looking forward to here soon launching some training courses for agents, because it's not, people, they hear cash value life insurance, they hear infinite banking, and most people either automatically say IUL or automatically say participate whole life, but it's both. Like, it's not one or the other, it's both. And you have to understand how to talk to your client, figure out which one they're needing based on what they're needing to do, and then to set it up correctly, what that looks like. And so working on developing some training courses, because I've gone through a lot of the courses that are out there for how to train agents on being the best for their clients. And they're okay. Again, I think we can simplify things, make the road a little bit smoother, so that when we're talking with clients about these things, we don't get lost in the details. We can actually get them started on really changing the financial trajectory of where their family has been headed for years, and put it to entirely a new place.
I love that. Tax Free Living. Go get you a copy on Amazon.
You heard the man. If you're an agent, go get 10 copies so you can give it to your potential prospects, because it'll just make it that much easier.
So good. Well, Edward, I can't thank you enough, man, for giving up your time, being on here. Last question for you, brother. Any final thoughts, or maybe a piece of advice you'd give to a new agent listening to this who's maybe in their first 90 days? Anything that you wish you would have known or somebody would have told you back when you were getting started?
I would say, if I really know, like, it's going to take a little bit longer than you think it's going to take, but it's going to reward you far greater than you can even imagine right now. And like, really believe that. I heard a saying earlier today. I think it's like from, maybe it was Siddharth. But it was saying that, wisdom can never be taught or translated. You can teach knowledge, but wisdom will always sound foolish to those who hear it, and can only be understood by those who have gained it. That's an unfortunate thing. I think I wish we could figure out, and I feel the truth in that. I still kind of wrestling with that one myself. Like I said, I just heard it this morning. But it's like, you hear things like that, and I'm not just trying to sit here and call myself wise, but I would say after 17 years in the industry, I definitely feel for myself, like I know that there's some wise things I know that I wouldn't do again. And it doesn't matter how many times I try to impart that on others. Everybody does have to walk their own walk. But I would encourage you, if you're in that first 90 days, to pay attention to people who are actually getting results and have the life and lifestyle that you want. And look behind it, like, spend the time there, look behind the curtains, test it, right? But then once you've done that, I remember a good friend of mine, who passed away, Jimmy Spildiner, he said this about working, with this company in the past. He's like, I spent my first 3 months trying to figure out and poke holes and see, what's wrong and why this isn't true. But then after I realized this is it, I put my head down and I went to work. And even though he's passed away, he has a legacy that still exists to this day because he chose to do that. And so that would be that encouragement, is that, like, it's gonna feel like it's taken so much longer, right? But then once you get there, you're like, man, it really wasn't that long. But in the battle, in the process, it feels so long, so hard, and it's just that challenge to say, go ahead and give up. But then once you do get to the other side of that, it's so much more rewarding than you could ever, you can't imagine. And that's why it's wisdom. Like, you can't even imagine how good it can get until you get there. Because you get there and, like, I know it's gonna be good, but I didn't realize it was gonna be like this, like, and it's not just money, it's not just a monetary thing. It's everything else that's encompassed in what happens whenever you're able to make it through, because you become a different person when you go through that process. And so the you that you become is able to see and realize things that the you that you are today doesn't even have a clue exists. And not stuff that maybe but like just stuff for you, right? So take that as the challenge. Like, I want to become that person. I want to get to that point that I'm the person who looks back and almost shakes your head at the old version of you. Like, oh, you silly little, you tried, you were doing so much. Like, you want to get to that point, right? Because it's beautiful in so many different ways to be able to get to that point, where you can have empathy for where you are today and be very proud that you still fought your way through what you did to get to where you will be in the future. Long answer for your first 90 days, but like, I had to work that one out. That would be it if I could really impart that on someone.
I love it. How can people connect with you, Edward, if they resonated with your story, want to get to know you?
Yeah, you can follow me. I am Edward Pritchett. Pretty straightforward there, both on Instagram, TikTok, the Pritchett Agency on Facebook, and LinkedIn. YouTube, I have Life Insurance Today. So just search Life Insurance Today. Yeah, I try to get just like what you guys are doing, I just try to get as much things out there that I think will be of value to folks so that you can use it to grow your business, not just in the insurance world, but like I said, sales in general. I think we have the principles that can help people in every aspect of the business of sales, which every business is selling something. So,
or they don't have a business if they're not.
they don't have a business. They don't have a business, that's for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Edward. Been great having you. We may have to have you back on again. I feel like we could go for another hour, but I don't want to take up too much of your Friday, man.
All right. I appreciate you guys.
Of course.
Thanks, Edward.
Have a great day, man. See ya.